I was just checking.
My name's there.
Yeah, that's why I said, can I have it? Please. Yes. Please, everyone.
Yeah. He's happy. They have to see it. Leave it there, man. They have to see the presentation. You happy?
Thank you guys, as always, really your colleagues and Lord will be supportive by being interested and fascinated. Please. Their slides look better than mine anyway. When you're ready, my friend. Thank you.
Hello, guys. My name is Anton. This is Afrika within Environment and Economic Development.
Okay, as humans, our environment is our home. It is where we as humans develop for over numerous years and continue to develop and experience human life.
All that is living depends on the environment, and all the components that are required for surviving, development, and growth requires the environment's resources.
The environment has been used for many different reasons and has many different players, ranging from a local farmer to a multinational firm. These different players require different inputs from the environment, and their output produces different levels of environmental degradation.
We want to understand how important the environment is to us as individuals and how it affects growth in developing and developed countries.
The word environment originates from environment. This means things that surround us, and this can include air, water, humans, plants, trees, animals, buildings, roads, and much more.
The environment can be defined as the overall conditions and influences that can affect the environment, the development and life of organisms on Earth. So the environment consists of non-living or physical components. This includes the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and includes living or biological components. This includes plants, microbes, animals, and human beings.
Economic development. This may be defined as the process when an economy is transformed from low or negative growth of per capita income to a higher self-sustained rate of increase in per capita income, which is a long-run feature. It has been argued that the environment both hinders and promotes economic development.
There is a positive relationship between economic development and environmental degradation. Economic developments and environmentally unfriendly effects. So we're just going to mention a few. So we have the over-reliance of fossil fuels. This includes coal, oil, and natural gas. The overfishing, where we've seen a decline in fish stocks. The overuse and pollution of water resources, the deforestation, and the high levels of waste being produced, which we've seen as landfills.
Over-reliance on fossil fuels is an example of environmental degradation that exists in both developing and developed countries.
According to the Environment and Energy Study Institute, or short for EESI, fossil fuels are the world's primary energy source. The burning of fossil fuels was responsible for 79% of US greenhouse gases in 2010. These gases insulate the planet to higher temperatures and can lead to dramatic changes in the Earth's climate. We're just going to give an example now.
So oil, as of 2013, the US consumed 91.2 million barrels of oil per day, which accounted for 21% of world total consumption. China consumed 11%, which Japan consumed 5%.
According to Green, petroleum is the biggest energy source, accounting for 40% of primary energy. Green believes that oil production may decline in the future. However, according to Reuters, it believes that oil reserves will double by 2050. This is due to advances in technology, which allow finding new reserves and collecting it easier.
So effects on the environment is there's air pollution hazard, so this causes health problems such as cancer, breathing problems, and then there's water pollution, that's both groundwater and surface contamination, and then there's soil pollution hazard.
According to Oil Care, 1 litre of oil contamination can contaminate over 1 million litres of water. They also argue that oil pollution can harm animals and insects, prevents photosynthesis, disrupts the food chain, and can take a very long time for the environment to recover. And the diagram on the right, I don't know if you can see it, this one.
Yeah, we can.
It shows that the conventional, unconventional oil production, that it may decline in the future. This is just an assumption, but the article that we read said that it will only increase.
Over-reliance on coal. So in 2013, coal provided 41% of electricity supply and accounted for 29% of total world energy. Since the start of the 21st century, coal has been the fastest growing energy source and has only slightly decreased due to the decline in China and the unrest in Ukraine.
However, China has the highest coal consumption at 40% of the world's total, more than Europe, Japan, and the US, and is expected to grow due to its economic growth.
For years, it has been estimated that the US has over 200 years of coal reserves as its disposal. However, it may be unfeasible due to the coal being buried too deeply to make a profit, therefore making coal too expensive to mine.
The effects on the environment. So, if we use coal, it affects the water environment, mining, waste disposal. Coal accidents, 80% occurred in China alone. It leads to air pollution and landscape changes such as sinkholes. Okay, over-reliance on gas. Natural gas. As of 2014, demand for natural gas was just under 3,500 billion cubic meters, and its annual growth rate from 2014 to 2020 is to be 2%. The US, China, and Iran are the biggest consumers of gas. However, it is important to know that China's gas consumption rose by 2/3 from 2009 to 2014, and added an extra 8% in 2014, equating to 180 billion cubic meters.
Natural gas in Europe is running out, where Europe's largest natural gas producer, the Netherlands, has used over 80% of its reserve and is running low.
So, if you see the graph, it's like in declining. So, show more emphasis. The effects on the environment, so air pollution. Every 10,000, so gas is a cleaner source of energy than coal and oil. So air pollution. So every 10,000 units of powered by natural gas instead of coal reduces gas emissions by 1,900 tons of NOx. It leads to, however, another negative is it leads to land use and wildlife. Digging affects the ecosystem. It leads to the contamination of water and possibly earthquakes.
The environment. The state of the natural resources and environment within a country depends on 5 factors. The level of economic activity within a country, the sectoral structure, level of technology, the demand for environmental resources, and level of protection and expenditure on the environment and their effectiveness.
The larger the size of a country's GNP, whilst keeping other things equal, means that the natural resources get depleted quicker and higher pollution is created.
The Kuznets curve. So in 1965 and 1966, Simon Kuznets came up with the Kuznets curve. The graph basically shows an inverted U-shaped relationship, and it is a hypothesis, and it believes that environmental damage initially increases when income rises, but then declines after a certain point.
The turning point of the environmental Kuznets curve. The turning point. Early stages of economic development, environmental degradation will increase until a certain level of income is reached, aka the turning point.
Once the turning point is reached, environmental improvement will occur.
This hypothesis supports the fact that economic growth may benefit the environment in the long run due to richer countries may be able to meet the higher demands for environmental protection through their institutional environmental capacity.
There is likeliness that economic growth increases the possibility that more modern and less pollution-intensive man-made capital and technology are introduced.
Economic development progresses and incomes grow for a country. The share of an industry will go down as services go up, and sectoral changes may favour less polluting sectors. So it's just a shift from manufacturing to services, possibly in the future.
Poor to rich, developing to developed. Initially, people in poor income countries cannot afford to be more green. However, as society becomes richer, they will reduce their pollution. This may occur through
reducing pollution reduction through the scale effect, or by moving on to cleaner technologies known as the technical effect. or by switching to cleaner sectors known as the composition effect. Due to higher incomes, people will be able to afford and be more environmentally conscious. Governments can then start to regulate more and can enforce stricter regulations.
Okay, pollution haven hypothesis is the idea that polluting industries will relocate to jurisdictions with less stringent environmental regulations. This hypothesis makes the idea that countries with weak environmental regulations, usually developed countries, is also known as pollution havens. This will attract polluting industries relocating from stringent locales.
High-income countries have become cleaner because they have exported their pollution-intensive industries to LDCs. By importing goods that are a resource of pollution-intensive, developed countries' environmental track records appear to be cleaner than what they actually are.
Developing countries have been known to be at greater risk from environmental damages such as global warming compared to industrialized countries.
In order to improve and develop the standards of living of citizens within the regions, many developing countries opt for the goals of economic growth and cheap energy overall. More energy access at a lower price is important to make industries more competitive and contribute to economic growth and development.
This is because developing countries usually lack sufficient adaptive capacity, financial technology, and human resources. Global warming itself can hinder sustainable development of developing countries.
Policies that focus on decreasing environmental pollution may have the potential to undermine economic growth and competitiveness. Developing countries whose economies depend on natural resources. The exploration of oil and the activities of multinational oil companies in the region within Nigeria has caused substantial land, water, and air pollution. In order for Nigeria to maintain its current economic growth path and sustain its drive for poverty reduction, oil exploration and production will continue to be dominant.
So who's causing climate change now? So you can see that 63% of annual emissions are produced by developing countries.
13% comes from the US, 9% comes from the EU, 3% comes from Japan, 5% from Russia, and 3% comes from other high-income countries.
So the most in developing countries is 23% is from China, and then Middle East and North Africa is 8%, and then other developing Asia it's 11%.
Developed countries. However, many environmentalists claim that developed countries should pay more towards environmental damage than developing nations. The United Nations Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. The population in developed countries make use of more than 85% of the world's resources, but only account for 15% of its total population.
These high rates of consumption need to maintain the lifestyle which the population of developed countries is privileged and has been taking place through moving pollution, resource and labour-intensive industries to developing countries. Nations that appear to clean up their act ignore the fact that they have only relocated issues and not fixed the global environmental crisis.
The Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol is an international treaty which has emerged from the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Its purpose was to stabilise greenhouse gases to a level that will limit or prevent negative effects on the climate system.
In 2005, the protocol came into force. Nearly all nations signed the treaty. However, the US was the only exception.
Developing countries such as China and India were not mandated to reduce emissions, assuming that they have contributed a relatively small share of total CO2 build-up within the country.
Initially, the EU was not a target. To meet the reductions. However, the US and China exceeded the greenhouse gases, leading to emissions soaring by nearly 40% from 1990 to 2009.
The overall goal is to reduce emissions by 5.2% compared to 1990 levels.
The Kyoto Protocol carbon credit scheme has increased emissions by over 600 million tons. There are serious corruption allegations which involves organized crime both in Russia and Ukraine. Summary of environmental awareness. It is inevitable that during the takeoff period, as illustrated in the environmental business curve starting point, that environmental degradation will occur in the short run.
In the long run, development processes increases and economic growth turns from an enemy into a friend.
One view is that economic growth will improve the environment by itself through trade liberalization, economic structuring, and price reforms.
The other view is that during the degradation period, this may take far longer than expected to reach the turning point. This means that higher growth does not improve the environment.
It is better to deal with environmental degradation rather than wait till the future. For example, it is less costly to treat and safely dispose hazardous waste that is being produced rather than wait, or should we say, until society is rich enough, making them more aware of the environmental problems that may occur, because it's difficult to collect, for example, this hazardous waste and treat it later on.
Environmental degradation during the early stages of economic development may cause irreversible effects: tropical deforestation, loss of biological diversity, extinction of species, and loss of unique natural cycles.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Ask 3 questions? Go for it.
What action would you expect China to take to deal with the environmental issues caused by its coal use?
Pardon, sorry, what's that?
What action do you think China would take?
Well, it could start complying with the Kyoto Protocol, but that wouldn't it start limiting its growth in the short run? It would be more costly, but it may be beneficial in the long run. So I think it should, but the US has and Trump, for example, he's completely against the environment. He doesn't believe in it, so we might not even see compliance right now.
Yeah, but they should.
Yeah, but they should, it's good for the environment.
But I think the question was saying, can you suggest a practical message given the political environment and the state of development of China and the international political environment, which includes Trump? Can you suggest any practical thing of how to save the planet if you believe in it?
Oh, yes.
Or we just have to sit and wait?
It has to come from these two leaders, from both China and America. But America's against it. If America doesn't start taking action now, then China wouldn't follow either. So I feel that at this current period, we may, because due to Trump's comments, we may not be seeing any improvements within this. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I can come back. I'm just stimulating discussion. I'm not looking for. Yeah.
Do you think that economic growth will encounter planetary limits in the near future?
What do you mean?
Do you think that economic growth could be stopped by planetary limits in terms of the environment? Do you think that should be served?
I think it will. It depends on what sort of planetary limits you come about here, but it will stop it in the process, depending on your planetary thing that you're implying.
No, I think his question is saying, or if I understood it correctly, if economic growth means taking resources from this planet, or dumping your pollution and everything on the atmosphere, within that, the fact that this is going to be eventually finish it or becoming more expensive, like if you are digging oil, you will keep on digging, it will make it expensive. Will that therefore limit economic growth by itself instead of any human attempt? Will the planet say, no, I have enough one day?
I think we'll be long gone.
Sorry, is that your question? Yeah.
I think we'll be long gone before the planet does run out. But there will come a time within the future. But through advances in technology, hopefully, and through science, we might be able to deal with the problem, or we might find new means of resources that will provide us energy and etc.
Okay.
Through advances in technology,
What about
it will reduce it until we have a breakthrough, possibly.
Let's let other people ask questions first. You want to come back again? Second question? Anyone? Okay. Any questions? So you mentioned an issue of corruption, Russia and Ukraine. I missed that point. What was that?
It was one of the articles they were selling. They're just selling those
I think you were talking in terms of nearly Kyoto around that time, but that doesn't matter if it's too far. It doesn't count.
It just came to light that
No, I just couldn't imagine the idea of environment and crime. So what is it?
I think I didn't pay too much attention to it, but I think within Russia and Ukraine they were selling these carbon credit schemes at a cut price, I think, or illegally, I'm not too sure. But they were producing far more pollution than is required.
Yeah, they were going over their limit of the carbon pricing.
Yeah.
And hiding it, or in what way? What is the criminality in it? Someone polluting the atmosphere, and how were they hide?
It was the way that they traded it within these countries. That was the criminality. I think they were giving more credit carbon schemes and just undercutting, selling it cheap, I think, within these nations.
Okay. If you can
And then that was completely against the whole purpose.
I'm interested to see that if you can clarify that.
Yeah.
What the mechanism is.
Well, sure.
Another question? Yeah, I'm happy with that. I can leave it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can do it online. You can get from online, or they can sign it. Well, you get the credit for it.